Please welcome to Field Notes, Trouble, Erin Anne Gouch Mandeson.
I grew up with the scent of Nestle's Toll House cookies wafting from my mother's kitchen, and the feel of her soft arms around me as we mixed that sweet, sticky dough together. I loved being in the kitchen with my mom. We made everything from scratch. I mean, opening a cake mix was tantamount to committing a crime. She had lots of butter, sugar, and flour on hand so we could make anything at a moment's notice. When I was about 9, I went to the library and got a kid's cookbook and decided I was going to make spanakopita, Greek spinach pie. I got my mom to buy the then exotic ingredients, the paper-thin phyllo, the very tart feta cheese. I carefully layered it with the earthy spinach leaves, the citrusy dill, beaten egg, and the pungent black pepper. And wow, the first bite into those buttery shards was a revelation. My own kitchen is very much like my mom's. I have lots of butter and sugar and flour on hand to make anything at a moment's notice, cupboards full of muffin tins and cake pans crusted with baked-on batter, drawers full of crackly parchment paper and shiny aluminum foil, and even that same battered aluminum bowl my mother and I mixed that Toll House cookie batter nearly 40 years after her death. Although I've cooked for myself and others for many years, I somehow feel like I'm not a real cook. I somehow need to be vetted and certified by some vague amorphous body I don't even know how or where to apply. One voice inside my head says, "Of course you know what you're doing, you're a cook." The other one says, "You're an imposter, you don't know anything." And so goes the argument in my head between my wavering self-esteem and the legend I believe myself to be in my own mind. About 18 years ago, I moved to Greenfield, and that was my entree into a whole new world of food. Things like kohlrabi, husk cherries, fennel bulb, and rhubarb, things that were not part of my Los Angeles upbringing. I began to investigate CSAs around the valley, and I eventually landed at Just Roots, which, by happenstance, is 1 mile down the road from my house. I signed up to do a work share once a week in exchange for my weekly vegetables. And let me tell you, this 60-year-old body was out there in the field in the hot summer sun, bending and stooping and weeding and scuffling with people less than half my age. And it was really quite a revelation to be able to do that. And to come home with a box of vegetables that I'd had a hand in growing myself. That also led me to gardening. And the first time, as anybody knows who's ever grown potatoes, when you go on that treasure hunt digging for those beauties, I came up with these glaringly white, huge Kennebec potatoes that were just the biggest joy of my life. It was so amazing. And you should taste the chili rellenos my wife makes from the poblanos that I grow. And this from a girl who grew up thinking that chilies came from a can from the farmer Ortega. On Saturdays, I find myself at the Greenfield Farmers Market a lot, where I've actually worked as the assistant manager, and sometimes I'm the pinch hitter. And whether I'm working or I'm there on my own, I'm schmoozing, I'm talking, I'm kissing babies, I'm petting dogs, and I'm loading my bag up with wonderful local produce to take home and make for dinner. On other Saturdays, I go to the Stone Soup Cafe, and this was really my entree into the world of food insecurity and food injustice, as I saw the lines go from a couple hundred people a week to over 500 now coming for meals. I learned to prep and chop and cook in a commercial kitchen, something I'd never done before. I even went and earned my ServSafe manager's certification for my own edification and, so I wouldn't poison anybody in the kitchen. Coming to the cafe on Saturdays was like my own Cheers. I'd walk in the door and Steve the hippie would yell, "Trouble!" And I knew that I was home and with my people. I also do a food column once a month for the Montague Reporter, and I put in personal anecdotes, historical and cultural facts about food, both local and from far away. I include photos and always a recipe. And let me tell you how satisfying it is to be shopping at Foster's Supermarket and have someone tap me on the shoulder and say, "Trouble, I made your Grandma Sadie's sweet and sour Hungarian stuffed cabbage, and my family loved it." I mean, that is just super satisfying. I'm not really technologically advanced, but I do manage an Instagram page where I post my triumphs and my tragedies in the kitchen. I use the hashtags Cooking with Trouble and The Sloppy Cook, because there is never any doubt that I'm going to cream my butter and sugar only to discover I have no eggs. No problem, I'm the queen of substitutions. Half a baked sweet potato, some chia seeds, maybe a little applesauce, doesn't really matter. Whatever goes in comes out beautifully. Last summer, I made chicken salad for 60 for a farm picnic, and it was a real Martha Stewart moment as I chopped up the tarragon from my own garden. As I sat at the picnic, watching the last of my chicken salad get scooped up onto a plate, I thought to myself, you know, I think it's possible that maybe you actually are a real cook. Thanks.
CISA is so honored to bring you these stories about local food and our culture. If you'd like to learn more about CISA's work and our programs, please go to buylocalfood.org. Thank you.